Hello everyone and welcome to the Omega Metroid podcast. My name is Andy Spiteri, joined by Dakota Lasky at Doominal Crossing. Let's start with you this week, Doom. How you doing?
Pretty good. We got school starting tomorrow, but otherwise, it's been pretty chill. We got some new, really tight roommates that just finished moving in, so, we had a little bit of some celebration drinking and whatnot, but yeah, it's been going all well, and it's been quite eventful in the gaming industry as well, I gotta say. Like, literally right when we uploaded our episode last week,
we'll get there.
It seems like everything was going down.
Yeah, I want to spend a second talking about that, actually, but before we get there, Dak, how you doing? I know you got some casting going on today. How's that going?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Got a big weekend of casting. I just did the Community Gaming Halo Infinite 1K last night. Now today I'm doing the NACE Star League Smash Ultimate Collegiate Finals, which I'm actually in between blocks of. I just finished casting for 2 hours with my man Rod. Shout out to my man Rod. And then here I am doing the podcast, and then I'll be back on to cast some more Smash after this, and then I have more Halo casting on Tuesday. So pretty booked up weekend, but I'm glad I was able to find some time to jump in and talk some Metroid.
Buddy, you better get like a chai tea or something for that throat of yours. It's going to be a little bit dried up after this weekend, it sounds like.
Probably will. Well, I got a little bit of Bailey's. I got some chicken nuggets. You know what it is. I think I'll be good.
He's got the hook
combo.
Yeah, there it is.
The wombo combo.
Yep.
That ain't Falco. So, first of all, we had a good show last week. I saw a lot of positive feedback from it. And what
did we talk about last week?
We were talking about the missed opportunities of Dread and how it makes sense to just stick that arm cannon into whatever. But this week is going to be a good show too, because we turned the show over to the audience, and now we've got your questions. But before we get there, I do want to get your guys' really quickly, because we have a lot of questions to get through. But I want your guys' opinion on what Doom was alluding to earlier, and that is, of course, the acquisition of Activision by Microsoft. And I feel like I went through kind of the gambit of emotions, because my first emotion was, as a guy that has so I have Nintendo, I have Sony, and I have Microsoft consoles. So I was just kind of like, whatever, it doesn't really matter to me. And it doesn't matter to me also because I can't think of the last Activision game that I've played. I think we talked about this a few weeks ago. And then I was kind of thinking, like, you know what, maybe this is actually kind of like a good thing where, I'm sure that Phil Spencer and his team are going to clean house. They're going to get Bobby, whatever his name is, out of Activision, and probably a lot of the other executives that help foster that kind of environment out of Activision. It sounds like we might see the Call of Duty franchise not come out every single year, which I think is a good thing. It sounds like we might see some other Activision franchises come back from the dead, which I think is a good thing. So I was kind of optimistic, and then I was thinking too, and I was like, you know what? I don't know actually if this is a good thing, because it's kind of like Disney buying Marvel and buying Lucasfilm and buying Fox, and it's like man, this is this is kind of it's a lot, and I don't know if that is necessarily all that great for our industry, and I'm still not really sure where I land on this. I feel like I had like the whole gambit of emotion. So I wanted to see what you guys thought about this acquisition really quickly.
Yeah, I think there's definitely going to be like both positive and negative consequences as a result from this acquisition, but I don't think any of us are going to really know the true consequences of what that's going to be like, at least for another decade or so from now. Like we're really not going to understand until we see the long-term effects that this has on the gaming industry as a whole. But overall, I pretty much agree with everything that you've said. I think in the short term, it's going to be good news, because it seems like at least somewhat that Microsoft is, like you said, cleaning house, even though it's really unfortunate that, people like Bobby Kotick and all those guys are never going to truly be held accountable. They're going to be going out on golden parachutes. They're still going to be filthy rich. But at least they won't be able to do the harm that they're doing at their companies right now, and maybe we'll finally see some justice for the brave employees at Blizzard who have been speaking out and protesting and getting the word out, and hopefully this will cause more positive ramifications throughout the game industry, because obviously this isn't just limited to Activision Blizzard. It's kind of an industry-wide problem, if we're being honest. But yeah, and then you also mentioned like the whole acquisition. But yeah, you also mentioned the whole Disney thing and this whole thing of consolidation, and like how slowly you have these large corporations that are eating away up. I guess Activision isn't a small business by any means. They're another large multi-billion-dollar corporation, but still, this whole thing of consolidation and like slowly being eaten up as if it's like Unicron, like taking out all these other things. And while right now I still think there's still a lot of diversity within the games industry, but again, we're talking long-term effects here, and if this is something that keeps up, if you have companies being acquired at a rate that's being higher than companies that are being created, this could spell out a bad future maybe 30, 40 years from now, where you start to have everything under the sun of one umbrella, and it starts and as a result you kind of have, I think, Andy, you're kind of what your problem is with the MCU, where they're not bad movies, but it's
very homogenized.
Exactly, but they all feel too similar.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, exactly, and you have less risk taking and stuff like that, and so as a result, if that's not your cup of tea, then you're not really going to have that many other options. But anyways, I'm kind of rambling at this point, so I'll hand it off to Dak.
Yeah, you guys kind of covered everything I was going to say. I certainly don't have an expert opinion on this by any means. So ultimately, yeah, there are going to be good and bad that come with this. Even from like a design standpoint, I think it's important that Microsoft or someone really has a lot of these dedicated teams that are working on different IPs and franchises, and because they've kind of took on a lot of these different teams in doing so, I think they'll be able to continue to push out some good games from IPs that already exist. I feel like their handling of Minecraft, for example, since that acquisition has been, pretty successful overall, and they've done a really good job of making all these different IPs and franchises more accessible and more available on different platforms, especially with Game Pass. Think of all the new games that are going to be available on Game Pass, which is already an incredible deal in the industry. Now you're going to have even more available on that. So it's, of course, there's the other side of that. Microsoft doesn't, they have a lot of issues with dealing with contract workers. As someone who's a big Halo fan, I'm not entirely happy with how Halo Infinite turned out, and that's, developed by an in-house development team, 343, that's made specifically for Halo, right under, Microsoft's jurisdiction. So it's, it's a double-edged sword. I'm not sure which way it's going to cut. I do agree that you might see a bit of that homogeny, and certainly having everything under one umbrella isn't, or a few umbrellas across the entire industry is not the best, but I think it remains to be seen. I'm hoping that the kind of the work environment and work culture of many of these different companies will improve, which I think is probably likely. But again, I don't have an expert opinion on that. Personally, I'm really, hoping that, like you were alluding to, Andy, kind of maybe franchises that have been neglected a bit by Activision Blizzard will kind of get pumped up again under Microsoft. As someone who's a big fan of StarCraft, I would love to see a new StarCraft game maybe come out, maybe kind of alongside a new Halo Wars or something like that. Certainly, my roommate is looking for improvements to World of Warcraft, and we know that there was a lot of development issues under the current, previous regime at Activision Blizzard regarding Overwatch. Maybe things will improve there as well. So I think it remains to be seen. It's such a huge move that I don't think we're really going to see the effects of what it entails until probably a few years from now. So, I'm really interested to see how things go. Ultimately, it's probably maybe better for people who work for Activision Blizzard now working for Microsoft potentially. I hope it is for them, and hopefully we get some more good games out of it and things aren't negative. So I'm not entirely doomsaying any of this. Certainly not completely won over, but it is what it is and it remains to be seen.
Yeah,
Still crazy huge, though.
My God,
yeah,
$70 billion,
$69 billion, nice, but
and imagine what that price was before the scandal.
Well, that's the thing too.
It's just crazy.
Is that the deal? Apparently, I was reading that the deal was pretty quick. I think the talks for having them sell to Microsoft only started 2 or 3 months ago. So like,
well, and they wanted Facebook to buy them first.
yes, they pretty much sold to the highest. They pretty much sold to the highest bidder, and Microsoft has a lot of money to play with for sure. So. It's actually crazy because if you think back like 10, 15 years, like so many of these crossovers and connections between IPs due to who owns it, like you never even think that like Halo, Call of Duty, and Doom would all be under the same umbrella. All these different Crash and Spyro, which were like for years like Sony like name brands are now owned by Microsoft. Like that, I think that's the kind of stuff that's the craziest to me is like if you were to anticipate this kind of stuff 10, 15 years ago, it'd be impossible. And to even think that these franchises might cross over in the way they do, the amount of crossover we see these days is crazy. And we just had like Fortnite has like League of Legends characters in it. Like I would never anticipate that either. So like you can see how all of these kind of different factors are starting to mesh together in ways that I never would have thought of. I don't think anyone else really would have thought of. And this acquisition is really going to open the door to so many different new things that might not have been possible previously. And so in that way, I'm hoping it's a positive.
Well, I want to say June 2023 is when the deal finalizes, and that is when Bobby's going to be out on his ass. Although he's going to get,
he's going to get mad money, yeah. So
yeah. But at least it's something.
Well, all right. I wanted to bring up something real quick, and then we can continue. But you mentioned Doom, and it's actually really, really interesting because I think it was John Carmack who was talking about this on Twitter, the original founder of id Software, and he was saying that before Bethesda bought id Software, it was actually Activision who was in talks to buy them, and so regardless of how it would have happened, they would have been acquired by Microsoft, regardless which path they took, which I just thought was kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm. Well, there you go. The more you know. All right, let's get over to some Metroid questions here. We have a lot of questions to go through here, so let's be as succinct as we can here, gentlemen. And let's start off with this question. What is this question? This is from...
Are we going in order? Are we going top down?
Yeah, let's go top down.
Okay.
So this is from... I'm going to butcher your name, I'm sorry. Chojin Zoku. And they ask, how does Ridley eat? Blendermouth, acid and drink, or vampire? One of the manga says that he needs fresh cells to survive. I don't even know what this means, dude. He probably eats by biting people.
Yeah, I think he eats normally. I think the manga was trying to just get a little creative in terms of saying, yeah, Ridley needs to eat stuff to survive. Like, what does fresh DNA to regenerate mean?
Fresh DNA is a dragon biting my shoulder off and eating it. Like, that's fresh DNA.
I think he just kind of eats like a big carnivore would eat, probably.
Yeah. This is from Tyler. If Metroid was a subject on a game show Jeopardy, what questions would you feature?
Ooh, this is a good one. Wow. I would think you would have to have a question about Justin Bailey. You know, like that code from the original Metroid. I think that's something that would be doable for a lot of people, but still kind of obscure-ish if you don't really know. I think it would make for an interesting trivia question, like what is the code or whatever to have Samus, be playable without her suit in the original Metroid. What is Justin Bailey? I don't know. That'd be an interesting question.
I feel like it would be something...
I think you have to go generic.
Really?
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like it would be like a basic question, like, hey, this game that debuted in 1986 in Japan
That's
featured...
too basic, though.
It's Jeopardy, though. Like
what score? What point? How many points do we get? Is this one of those low point questions, or is it
Jeopardy has more basic questions than that, I feel like.
That's fair.
So I want to present to you gentlemen something, and I'm looking it up as I'm talking here. But they actually had a Zelda question on Jeopardy not that long ago, and I want to say it was like a very easy question as well. So I think that it would be something like what is the name or of the heroine of this franchise or whatever. So the question that they asked in Zelda was like, Triforce hookshots and Hylian Shield are tokens in this edition based on this video game franchise. So I think it would be a question like that.
It would be like, this game's nemesis shows up almost every single game. What is it? And
that would be a deep cut, I think. But hey, I'd be down for that. All right, Nelson has a question here. A Metroid immersive sim game like System Shock or Prey is announced. How do you guys think this hypothetical game could benefit from new gameplay mechanics from this genre? You know what? I don't know. I've only played about an hour of Prey. I never played System Shock. I don't know what like an immersive sim game really entails. Like to me, Prey just kind of felt like a first-person shooter that was in some ways akin already to a game like Metroid Prime, where maybe actual shooting wasn't like the main focus like it might be in a Doom game or Call of Duty game. So like I feel like beyond the numerous things that we've talked about for Metroid Prime Trilogy, if that ever happens, like with the controls and dual analog and stuff like that, I'm not really sure. I'd be interested to hear your guys' opinions.
So when I hear this, I also think of games like the first BioShock as well, and even Alien Isolation, which we did an episode on a few months ago as well. Kind of games like that, kind of like a survival horror Metroidvania almost. And I was thinking about ideas. I don't know if that would work with Samus exactly in that kind of environment, but I think maybe a spin-off with like some new protagonist would actually be really cool. Like imagine maybe like a lone survivor of the GFS Valhalla who has just watched his entire squad get massacred, and they now have to like find a way to get off this ship without being like spotted by like the remaining forces patrolling the wreckage and all that. Like I think something like that might be kind of cool.
Yeah. I don't have too much to add. I'm not sure. I feel like it wouldn't really be a Metroid game though. It would be like a game that it just has the Metroid IP maybe. I mean, I didn't play the original System Shock, and I assume they're talking about the original Prey. I played System Shock 2 though, which is more like BioShock really than like System Shock 1. That'd be interesting though. I think that this might be a bit too much for Metroid though. I don't know. It could be interesting to maybe have like this kind of game. I think would be good at really expanding the Metroid universe though, and giving us like a lot more insight to parts of the lore and the world that we don't really know too much right now. Like when I think of the original System Shock, you have like all those different like emails you're reading and all that different stuff. Like that's like almost like reading lore in Metroid, like reading scans. I don't know. Could work. Yeah.
I was gonna say that. I mean, it sounds a lot like Metroid Prime, but like I said, I'm totally ignorant of what kind of game System Shock is because I've never had the chance to play it. So, yeah, I don't know. That could be cool though. All right, here we go. This is this is from Naiku. I probably butchered your name. Sorry, buddy. What is your honest opinion on the Metroid Dread OST, and why is it the best Metroid OST to date out of all the 2D Metroid games, dude? So I mean, I don't think that this is like the worst soundtrack, like I really don't. I think it's a pretty good soundtrack, but I mean, come on.
It's just like it's relative, right? Because like it's not that the Dread OST is like necessarily bad. It's just when I think of a Metroid game, the music is one of the always, I mean, in a good Metroid game, it's always, even in a bad Metroid game, like even like Other M, like the music was still good. Like there's still a lot of solid tracks. Like in some of the best Metroid games, the music and the soundtrack is one of the defining parts of the game. So when I get a Metroid game where the OST is kind of meh and doesn't really stick out to me and it's not very memorable, it's a lot more noticeable because normally the music and the sound design and all of that is really, really well done in a good Metroid game. So I think that's kind of, it's very relative. Like if you were to compare the Dread OST to some other games, it probably won't seem very bad or not. But if you compare it to other Metroid games, it's certainly lower on the list.
Here's the thing about the Dread OST. Like I think that the Arteria theme is quite good, and that's the first theme that you hear in the game, right? But then you go to Cataris, and the theme is like somewhat similar, and then you go to Brenia, and the theme is somewhat similar. So it's not like it's bad. It's just kind of like it's the same thing where like there's slight deviations. Where I read a tweet today, and someone was saying like, man, if you go from Green Brinstar to Red Brinstar to Norfair to Meridia in Super Metroid, like those sound completely different, right? Like. So I would say that it's certainly not a bad OST. I think that it's really good. I think that it could have used a remake or two, as we talked about last week. And, I don't think that it'll stand as one of the stronger OSTs. I think it could probably beat a few 2D Metroid games, but I mean, it's certainly not the best. I don't think.
I mean, I've said everything I need to say about the Dread OST at this point. I don't know if I can add much more. So I would say just look through our archives, see what we've said about it before, and yeah.
All right. Spot Art has a cool question. What is your favorite sprite or enemy design in Super Metroid? So I have an answer here, but I don't know the official name of this creature, but you know the creatures that burrow in the walls and like they have the big head and they shoot out at you?
You don't know the name of this? How do you not know the name of this creature?
because I'll tell you why. I have been calling them Xenos since I was like 11 years old. Because when I first saw them, I was like, this thing looks like the Xenomorph from Alien. It looks like the head's kind of similar. So every time I see him, I'm like, oh, hey, it's a Xeno. Cool. There's Xeno. He's in Metroid Fusion. There's Xeno again. So, like, to me, these are just like, they're Xenos. They just hide in the wall and they pop out at you. They have an official name, but, like, I just can't bring myself to call them that. And I can't even remember what it is. But those are my favorite.
I was going to say my boy Kraid.
That's your favorite.
Well,
that's your favorite sprite.
You can't go wrong with that.
Yeah, okay. I think for me, from Super, I would have to go with the Torizo. Torizos just look really awesome. I love how you can see like the musculature and they're like this like kind of dead stare at you. I don't know. I always thought the Torizos were really kind of like not like almost kind of creepy looking, and they really fit that role well. So I would go with the Torizos.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm trying to. I think they may be called. Oh, never mind.
That's aside from Ridley, of course, because Ridley looks awesome in Super.
Well, yeah.
So
yeah,
that's a given. Ridley's obviously the right answer, but aside from him,
I'll try and find the official name of the Xeno, but I have no idea what it is. All right, let's keep it going. Harkyman has an awesome question that we've kind of touched on a little bit before, but here we go. If Mercury Steam remade Metroid Fusion and expanded its ending just like Samus Returns and Zero Mission expanded the endings of 1 and 2, would you like the studio add a prologue that tied up Fusion's loose threads? If they pulled it off, would Dak forgive Metroid Dread?
I wouldn't.
Okay.
I wouldn't. I mean, this is a twofold question. I do think that like having, I don't know. It's like, how do you tie up those loose ends so easily? Like, this should have been a big... I hate going into this again because I feel like we've discussed this so many times. But, like, what I thought was set up at the end of Fusion was going to be leading to a really big thing that you can't just, like, tie up in a small little prologue or what ending thing. Like, there's too much sus stuff that the Federation has gone with that for Samus to still be working with them just doesn't make any sense to me. And I don't think that adding anything in between the end of Fusion and Dread would really fix that for me. At this point, I've honestly given up on them doing it correctly because they really haven't done it correctly. That said, yeah, if they expanded on the ending of Fusion a bit, like that would be cool. I don't see how they would do it in a satisfying manner for me, and it's not even like I'm just kind of over it now. Like it is what it is. They kind of missed their opportunity for me, and I would rather them just move on than now trying to go back and do something they should have already done in the first place. Like just move on. Just I don't care anymore.
Yeah, I feel like your answer is fairly close to mine. Yeah, I think that they still could do this story if they wanted to. But I also kind of feel like to them, Other M was that story wrapping up these loose threads. And maybe that was supposed to be the payoff, and obviously it didn't go exactly as they might have hoped, or we might have hoped as fans. But yeah, I think that when they remake Fusion, there's certainly going to be extra content. I wouldn't be surprised if there was something to set up the next Metroid game. So maybe there is something that kind of details what the Federation is doing or something. Maybe the prologue is you play as the SAX. I don't know.
That would be wild. I don't even know how that would work, but I mean.
That could work super easy. I mean, you're just playing as Samus.
No, I get that,
right?
But I mean, like, how would you have a file like an end? What you mean? Like, it would be a prologue to Dread. It wouldn't be a prologue to Fusion, right? Like the SAX.
Sorry. So I'm not saying it as a prologue to Dread. I'm just saying as like an extra content in Metroid Fusion.
Yeah, that's like a different thing. Yeah, I mean that would be cool, but I just don't see how they'd be able to do it in like a fashion where it doesn't seem like they're just kind of like, all right, it's resolved. You know, don't you have to worry about it anymore. Like this, what Fusion was setting up should have been the entirety of Dread, and to then kind of pack it into a small little end portion of Fusion or a prologue to Dread, it would just further like nullify what should have been a really high stakes plot situation. So I'm personally over it. They missed their opportunity. They messed it up. They didn't do it right. I'd rather them just move on and do something else.
Yeah, I think
I don't really have much to add.
Yeah, I think I pretty much agree with all that. I don't have much. The only thing I do want to point out too is that like I've seen this a lot on the Discords as well, but like I feel like there's kind of this meme going around that like Dak is every time we talk about the Federation not being Dread, that's a Dak meme, and it's like I've been just as critical about that too. I've been talking about that like on the podcast, the Discord, my Twitter. So I don't know why that's specifically like a Dak meme, but I don't know. Anyways, neither here nor there.
Because I'm that dude. I don't know. Yeah, at this point, I think I feel like
when you've got heel Dak and babyface Spiteri, that's what you get.
Yeah,
that's what you get. All right, Doom, you're kind of like a tweener. We sometimes you're a heel, sometimes you're a babyface. So we'll go. It's nice to play babyface. So I play a heel on.
I like being a heel. Heel is more fun.
Yeah,
I'm just me.
Harkyman. Yes, you are. Harkyman has a question. Another great question here. Would you like to see Sakamoto and/or Mercury Steam take their wins from Dread and produce a 2.5D Metroidvania-style Zelda platformer? All right. You know what my father used to say to me when I asked a question like that the answer was obvious to? He would say, like, does a bear poop in the woods? And the answer is yes. So, I mean, the answer to this is yes. I'd be so down for, like... First of all, I love Zelda spin-offs in every shape and color. Like, Hyrule Warriors, great. I love Cadence of Hyrule, great. I love the Tingle games, great. I just love playing Zelda games in a different style of presentation. So to have a Zelda game in what could be my favorite genre of game, Metroidvania, would be so cool. That'd be so cool. Yeah. I mean, it would never happen, but hey.
I'm going to give a vague answer, but basically it's a long-winded way of saying yes. And basically, I want Mercury Steam and Sakamoto to do whatever they want. Because if they make nothing but Metroid, eventually they're going to get burnt out, and none of us want that. Tackling new projects will keep the desire to make Metroid alive, while also potentially giving the team new ideas to implement in the future that they might not have thought had they not gone off and experimented with all sorts of other projects. So, if that happens to be a 2.5D style Metroidvania, then hell yeah, go for it. I'm down.
That'd be so awesome.
Yeah. I mean, yes. That would be cool. I wouldn't be against that. See, now that they've worked on a Metroid game, and I was talking about this in the Discord recently, that they should do the sci-fi Zelda game, and maybe that would be this 2.5D Metroidvania style Zelda platformer. I've always wanted a sci-fi Zelda game. I feel like that'd be so cool.
I unironically think that they should do like a cyberpunk
It would be
Zelda
so
game. I made a pitch
cool,
for this actually.
Man. I feel like that would be like, and I've seen a bunch of concepts for it too. Like, change it up. It doesn't always have to be like straight fantasy. I'd be totally down with that.
Breath of the Wild.
All right,
3,
everybody that wants to hear about this, go check out the Champions Cast. There's a cyberpunk Zelda episode. I laid out a pitch for a hell of a game there.
I want more of a space opera Zelda rather than cyberpunk, but I digress.
I'd take that too. Okay. That'd be cool. All right. Hibah Hussein has a cool question here. How would you feel about Samus being the antagonist of the Metroid series in the future? If you ask me, she's getting too comfortable with the violent nature of Metroids and sucking the life out of things. Even in Dread, some of those camera angles look menacing. I think you're onto something, my friend. I think that this could actually be cool. I want to say like a month or two ago, we were talking on the podcast here about like maybe introducing a new playable character and like they have to hunt down Samus. Kind of like when you're playing as Raiden in Metal Gear Solid 2. And you're kind of going after Snake, but then you realize that there's more to the story, and like maybe, I don't want to see like Samus as like the evil villain. Like I don't want her to be evil. Like I still want her to be the Samus that I know and love. But like I could see maybe the game presenting her as an antagonist, and like you're playing as a new protagonist, and your job is to hunt down Samus, and like maybe you learn that there's more going on than what you realize. I think that could actually be like a very cool and compelling story, and maybe a way that they could, as much as maybe we need to cut bait and move on from this Federation plot, I think that could be a cool way to maybe reintroduce that if they wanted to. And especially now that Samus is literally a Metroid.
So, hey. I'm back and forth on this. Personally, I'm okay with Samus being a villain, but I don't want her to be the antagonist. Like, I would be okay with her being a bad guy, but still the protagonist of the story. But I don't know if I want her to be the big bad villain. I don't know. It just doesn't really speak to me as her character. I feel like there's so many arcs and different things that could change that doesn't have to make her be the straight up big bad evil antagonist, especially if she's becoming a Metroid, regardless of that.
Well, hold on. Let me clarify my answer, because I agree with you, Dak. I don't want her to like act evilly. In my vision, it's like she's being set up almost for something.
Well, that's kind of what I'm saying. Is because like I don't think she should be an antagonist. Like I don't think she would ever get to that point. Like I could see her being more maybe villainous, but not necessarily evil or too powerful, whatever. But I'd still like her to be not the main bad guy. Like going back to wrestling stuff, she's at that point. If you're gonna include a new character, treat her like AEW treats their legends. You know, you got Sting with Darby Allin, right? I don't want Sting to be the big bad guy. I like Sting being there supporting Darby Allin, and they're kind of messing around together. Like that's if they're gonna include a new character as the main Metroid lead, I would like Samus to work with them and kind of help them, find their role and grow as a character rather than testing against Samus as the antagonist. So I don't know. Last time Samus was the bad guy, it didn't really go too well. To be fair, that also is entirely down to execution.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really speak to me. I think it's kind of contrived a little bit. I don't think just because she's getting she becomes a Metroid or whatever, that necessarily means that she would become the antagonist. If anything, her overcoming that nature of the Metroid is what would continue to make her be a protagonist. So from a storytelling perspective, that doesn't really speak to me. I don't really have much to get out of Samus being the bad guy, and I think it would kind of just be a little cheesy. So I would say no to that. I'd rather her be on the good side. Maybe, if anything, maybe she's an anti-hero, in between, and maybe you don't know which side she's on anymore, right? Like you haven't seen her for a while, you end up meeting Samus in the future, and she's not necessarily a good guy or a bad guy. Like that I would be more interested in her being an anti-hero or somewhere in the middle in like a gray area rather than being straight up the antagonist of a game. So I would say no to that.
Okay.
I think I don't know. I feel like all three of us agree on this, but we're interpreting our words differently because I think we all agree on this. So I want to go back to that Metal Gear Solid 2 example because I'm biased and that's my favorite of the series. But basically, because Dak, I don't think you're familiar with the Metal Gear series. Have you played any of those games?
I played Metal Gear.
You do?
Solid,
okay,
yeah. I'm not I'm not an expert or anything, but I played Metal Gear Solid 4. I played Twin Snakes on GameCube. I played Snake Eater.
Okay, well, so basically in 2, you have this tutorial mission where you're playing as Snake, and then that excuse me, I had a cough. So after that, you play as Raiden for the entire game, and basically one of your missions is you're out to kill Snake, basically, and you meet up with Snake, although he uses a different alias. I think it's Pliskin.
Snake Pliskin.
Yes, from Escape from New York, phenomenal reference. But yeah, and it's basically this little bit of dramatic irony where you, the player, like from the get-go, you know that Snake is innocent. You know that he's not the bad guy, even though the narrative is trying to present him as the bad guy. And I feel like that's, Andy, is like kind of what you're trying to present here. Where us, the player, we understand that Samus isn't the bad guy, but the character we're playing as doesn't understand that, and they're just kind of following orders.
Yes,
okay.
Correct.
And throughout the course of the adventure, they slowly kind of like warm up to Samus, and by the end of the game, they're on the same side, and you're kind of like reunited with all that.
Yeah,
I should have explained that better, but yes, you nailed it.
That I'm okay with. That's kind of similar to what they did in Halo with Master Chief and Arbiter, and then again with Master Chief and Locke. You kind of have Master Chief is clearly not the bad guy, but you're on the side where you kind of have to deal with them. I'm definitely down for, and I would actually be down for a game where you kind of play as both characters. Maybe one's kind of hunting down Samus. Eventually, they team up, do it Halo 2 style. Yeah, I'm okay with that. That's definitely something I'd be on board for.
Yeah, I was about to say definitely Halo.
Well, yeah, we all got there in the end.
Definitely Halo 2 style, not Halo 5 style. I was gonna say.
No, please not Halo. Yeah, if you want to do a Halo 2 style Metroid game where you play as Samus and play as the new hero, and they kind of eventually team up and whatever you see from both different perspectives, and you have that dramatic irony in effect. Yeah, that I would be interested in.
All right, Game Worm has a question, and I'm not actually interested in answering the first part of the question because we've already done an episode about this.
We've done an episode on this, both parts of this question.
Well, yes, but let's just really quickly because there's been a lot of time. There's been a lot of time since we did that. He asks if they made a Metroid movie, who should play Samus?
I don't know.
Danny DeVito.
Danny DeVito. Willem Dafoe.
No, nobody has an answer.
I honestly I'd rather them. I personally don't even care, but there are so many different actresses. I don't know. I've always thought, and this was my answer last time, Charlize Theron would be great as Samus. She looks like a character or a person that could play Samus. She's an incredible actress. That would be my pick. I would be not against, maybe a new face that I don't know about. Or, I don't know, make it Zendaya. Zendaya's playing everybody these days. Why not throw her in a Metroid movie?
Doom, what say you?
I already said Danny DeVito. I mean, I'm sticking with it.
Okay, well, sorry, Metroid fans. It's Brie Larson. It's no other option.
Yeah,
Brie Larson.
whatever. Honestly, like, hey,
one of the biggest stars in the world.
I doubt it even gets made.
Followers.
I doubt it even gets made.
Oh, of course it won't happen.
Yeah.
I won't say 0% chance, but I mean the chances are low.
It hasn't been a Zelda movie yet, and the Mario movie. Oh, Chris Pratt.
Done. Oh, the obvious choice.
Chris Pratt would play Samus.
Let me tell you something about Brie Larson, because I know that everyone likes to hate on her, but
I don't like to hate on her.
If everybody does, a lot of people do.
Right.
Anyways,
Me.
if they ever made a Metroid movie, you can almost guarantee that it would get made because an A-list actress is a fan of the series and campaigned to play Samus, which she has. So, like, if they ever did it, it would be a star vehicle for Brie Larson, and that is how this movie would ever get made. So there's only one answer, and it's Brie Larson.
That's
yeah,
fair.
I can say that for sure.
That's kind of like a Witcher scenario,
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I agree with that.
By the way, Witcher, sick show.
Very good show. And what's
very
his face?
good?
Who was the guy in that?
Henry Cavill.
Henry Cavill.
Yeah, I don't.
My wife,
Armie Hammer.
dude, when she sees Henry Cavill, she is just like melting.
Honestly, that's me when I see Henry Cavill. Let's be real.
Yeah, I think that's everybody.
I mean, I can't argue with that. That dude is.
But you're right there though, because like he's not just a good actor, but he like loves The Witcher and like is very So like if you have, I mean, to be fair, I don't know if Brie Larson likes Metroid as much as he likes Witcher. I think he like really, really, really likes The Witcher, and I think maybe Brie Larson is just a fan of Metroid. But I don't know. I don't know her personally, and maybe she's a huge fan and knows everything. And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised. I think that's something like that's how that kind of movie happens. Is you have someone who's very passionate about the franchise, is a big fan of it, and can also pull it off rather than just someone already wanting to make a Metroid movie and then trying to cast it. I think it starts the other way. You have someone who is very wants to make the project happen as leading in it, and then it goes from there.
Yeah, totally. I do have a backup answer though, because I think that I never thought of this before I watched The Expanse, but man, Dominique Tipper, who plays Naomi Nagata on The Expanse, would make a hell of a Samus. I think she'd do a great job.
Okay,
I think so. Yeah.
I could see that. She's really good in The Expanse.
I think that both Frankie Adams, who plays Bobby Draper in The Expanse.
Yes. Oh my God, that's
awesome.
who I was thinking of. Yes, I mean, obviously she plays like a Space Marine character in that already.
Who is basically Samus.
Yeah, so I was gonna say she was pretty much like Samus in that kind of regard. Yeah. She's really good. I mean, almost anyone from The Expanse I would throw in there. If you can get the guy who plays Amos, I feel like I'd throw him in somewhere. I love The Expanse.
Yeah, make him Ridley.
I'm a big fan of The Expanse, but I agree. I think they would both be good.
Yeah. Okay. Our boy Minneapolis King what is this question? This is a great question. If Samus could play an instrument, what do you think it would be?
Oh.
If she were to start a band, who else would be in the band? What music would they play?
Okay.
So Minneapolis King says, I think Samus would be lead vocals and keyboard, Ridley on guitar, Big Daddy Crade on Big Daddy bass, Krockmeyer on drums. It's pretty hard to argue with that lineup.
I mean, we already saw Samus play a violin in Tetris for the Game Boy, so I feel like that's kind
True.
of. I feel like that's her instrument of choice already.
That's
okay. Well, one thing that is absolutely for sure is Big Daddy Crade is playing Big Daddy bass. So I mean, what else do we got here? Let me present you this. I think that Fantoon on the drums could be cool because he's got those otherworldly tentacles.
Okay.
I
see. I would swap around Samus and Ridley. I think Ridley's on vocals and Samus is on some kind of string instrument because I'm just
Metroid Fusion Ridley specifically. Is on vocals.
Yes,
yeah. I was gonna say, have you heard him in Metroid
that's
Fusion?
Exactly what I was thinking of. If he's just screeching into the mic for 3.5 minutes, that's Metroid. That's Metroid pop right there. Like that's a certain kind of musical genre that you couldn't pull off without this lineup. So, because Samus doesn't talk that much overall, so I don't think you would put her on lead vocals. I think maybe you put her somewhere in the back. She's
all right.
Yeah, I don't know. But Ridley on vocals.
Check this out. check this out. So we've got Samus, and she's on keyboards, but she's also doing the rapping. We've got Ridley, and he's kind of doing the melodies, but he's also going hard screaming as well. Think Linkin Park here, okay? Samus is your rap lead. Ridley is your heavy lead. Big Daddy Crate on Big Daddy bass, and then we can fill in the rest. The rest are just kind of in the background.
I'm thinking it would be more of like a Blink-182 situation. You know, you got 2 vocalists there as well. Like, I don't know. I could see Samus. You don't like Blink?
Oh no, I love Blink.
Okay.
I absolutely love Blink-182. One of the best concerts I've ever been to, actually.
Yeah, I know you'd want maybe Avril Lavigne in this lineup somewhere.
I would, yeah, I would. But I guess we'll see.
I like this question though. That's good.
Keep it
I'm
up.
trying to think of any other characters who might be a good, I don't know, instrumentalist.
We gotta get Anthony Higgs in here.
Yeah,
somewhere.
Anthony.
This guy has mad he could play the lead guitar. Imagine this dude doing a solo.
Yes,
come on.
Yes, he could definitely shred. He could definitely shred. Who do you think, Adam? What? Human Adam.
Geez.
What do you think about him? Do you think he jumps in?
Human Adam is he's the guy that comes out and he's testing all the mics. Mic
He's
check.
the mic
he's the
guy.
roadie.
He's the roadie.
Is this mic working? Any objections? Okay, let's go. That's Adam. All right,
I'm down
let's
for
keep
that.
it going. Focus Wombat. Great question. Is there an existing indie game that you think would be cool/fitting to have a Metroid skin applied to in the vein of Hyrule Warriors or Cadence of Hyrule? I want Among Us on the BSL.
Yes. I was.
That
Among
could be cool.
Us. Yes,
Unironically, that sounds awesome. I'd be down
I would
for
totally play
Yeah.
that. That would be sick. Like maybe a style. I mean, you could have the Metroid band playing the music for Cadence of Zebus. You know, like that all wraps together.
Oh man, can you imagine that game? Damn, that would actually be awesome to have a Cadence style Metroid game, because I think that game is actually a lot of fun. My answer, I'm gonna go back to what we were just talking about, Metal Gear Solid.
That's not an indie game though.
I mean,
Well,
Hyrule Warriors is an indie
game.
either, so
I can't think of a game that's like
Among Us is an indie game for sure. So is Cadence of Hyrule.
Just let me have my Metal Gear Solid.
All
'Cause
right,
there's got to be
Metal
a
Gear
game like
Samus.
Metal Gear Solid that's an indie game. Yeah, Metal Gear Samus. I think that'd be cool to have like a Zero Suit game like that. I don't know how they would do it either, but you know the game Celeste? I actually think that would make a hell of an Ice Climbers game if they did that.
So
I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, so yeah, that's my answer. What you got, Doom?
I literally have nothing.
I would say that I'm thinking other indie games that might. There's so many good indie games that I can't even think of any. There's one game that I think could maybe if they did. If anyone's ever played Splitter Steel, a Metroid version of that game. I love Splitter Steel. And then I don't know. Maybe does Rocket League count as an indie game? Maybe not anymore.
They already did that.
Did they do? Oh yeah, they did do that. Oh my god, they did. I forgot Blast Ball. See, I was thinking of I was thinking of like actual ships though, you know, and not like.
You were thinking of a fun game.
Oh yeah, I was thinking of a fun game and not what we got. Yeah.
I do think that there is an opportunity out there. I can't think of a game specifically, but I feel like this game has got to exist. Where like there's like a spaceship game or something like that, where like you're doing like almost like No Man's Sky or something like that. That could be cool. I know that's not an indie game. Well,
No Man's Sky was an indie game. Yeah.
I guess technically
I would totally be down for a No Man's Sky, current No Man's Sky Metroid themed kind of game.
Okay, let's keep it going here. Chunky Beef Bomb. God, this username gets me every single time. Has a list of characters, and he asks who.
I'm sorry. You can. I was gonna say we should. I would almost want to save this one because I really want to do an episode on all of these different kinds of matchups. That's just me, but I feel like we wouldn't do it justice.
How about this? So he asks who would win in a fight. Why don't we go down the list and just give a one-word answer, and then if we want to, we can come back and expand on this in the future.
Okay, I'm fair. I'm down.
All right, match number 1. Quadraxis versus Diggernaut.
Quadraxis.
Yeah, I was gonna say Quadraxis as well. Isn't Quadraxis like way bigger than the Diggernaut too?
Well,
yeah, but I think I'm gonna make it 3 for 3.
Well, even beyond that, like getting way too into it, like Diggernaut is a piece of mining equipment, whereas Quadraxis is an advanced military AI housed in a robot body. So I feel like it's more designed for killing than Diggernaut is.
Yep.
Do you remember like 60 seconds ago when we were like, we're going to give one-word answers to this question and save this? All right. So, Dark Samus or the SAX?
Dark
Samus.
Yeah. Dark Samus just shows up too many times. Too strong. Phasing stronger. SAX kind of gets bodied. I would go with Dark Samus.
Phantoon or Nightmare?
Definitely. Oh, actually,
I'm gonna go Phantoon.
Phantoon is really strong. Actually, I was gonna say Nightmare can kind of slow down time, but like Phantoon can like phase in and out of reality, and I think that's kind of OP.
Well, Nightmare manipulates gravity. He doesn't slow down.
Oh, whatever.
Time,
Yeah,
yeah.
Well, whatever. Like it makes you slower. You know what I was getting at?
Yeah. Actually,
it's not time stopping.
All right, let's keep going. What the hell is a Zebus chosen?
I think they're talking about the test at the end of Zero Mission.
Oh, okay. So the thing at the end of Zero Mission versus the Talon for Ghost. That seems like such a weird matchup. It doesn't seem like a 1-for-1 kind of.
I think the Chozo.
I'll take the mirror thing.
I think the Chozo Ghosts win here. They like isn't the mirror thing just like in a room, like it's just like a flat kind of like a projection
to me,
on a wall.
That's kind of like that's like the whole Scarecrow thing from Arkham Asylum more than an actual like boss that you fight, you know?
Yeah, I think Chozo Ghosts they're a little more flexible. They have a little more power. If they teamed up, all those Chozo Ghosts kind of fought on their own a little bit.
No. The question says Ghost.
It does say. It does say. Yeah, that's true. I'm still going with the Ghost.
Okay.
I say it could go either way. Coin flip. So.
Oh, you have to pick. You can't.
You know what?
Just to be pick an answer.
Just to be the contrarian, I'm gonna pick the Zebus test. Just to be a contrarian.
All right, last one. Omega Pirate versus Omega Metroid. This isn't even a contest.
Oh, Omega Metroid. Gotta rep the podcast.
Yeah, come on. Omega Metroid is pounding him.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess the Omega Metroid.
All right. Maybe we'll revisit that topic somewhere.
We do got to do a matchups episode. I think that'll be fun.
Russet, I don't even want to ask this question, actually, but whatever, I will anyways, because I appreciate everybody that asks us questions. Russet Tomes asks, how would Andy feel if the next Metroid game featured mandatory story content involving Kirby? Bro, come on.
Game of the year.
Ugh.
See, once you showed people that you really don't like Kirby, now everyone wants to remind you of that. That's why I've toned down the other M and Dread stuff, because people are just going to continue to like play off of your hatred of it. You have to start saying that you actually aren't bothered by Kirby and you like it, because then it doesn't become fun for anyone who wants to troll you about it.
I just feel like I have better gimmicks to troll me about than Kirby, don't I? Like I don't know.
I don't know. You're pretty visceral. Your visceral hatred for Kirby has been a recurring topic lately. So.
All right, next time we do a Q&A, someone ask him about Kazuya instead. Change it up.
No, he didn't he didn't dislike the Kazuya.
Oh, that's that guy from Smash Bros.
The Tekken guy, yeah. That
Tekken guy, yeah.
He didn't hate that. I think he was
you know what?
Not as much as hated it.
That guy threw Kirby into a volcano.
Yeah.
Right? So he's all right.
Yeah, I agree with that.
He's all right. Okay, Quaid has a great question. If Nintendo hired big celebrities, Keanu Reeves, for example, to voice act Prime 4 or have had for previous titles, which, if any, would you have chosen for key characters in the series? I don't know. Like, big celebrities for voice work
Pratt.
is so...
Chris Pratt plays every character, but with like a slight difference in their voice, but you could still tell it's him.
Let's imagine that he's talking about Metroid Fusion here specifically, because I think that has probably the most dialogue of any Metroid game. I think that I could have seen like a Billy Bob Thornton as Adam or something like that, or like
Billy
someone,
Bob
or like Tommy Lee Jones as Adam. That'd be great.
Okay, I could. I don't even know.
I don't know.
The Billy Bob Thornton one just caught me off guard. Not gonna lie. Honestly, I was thinking, we were talking about Halo 2 earlier. Honestly, I'd love to see like Keith David join the Metroid universe. I absolutely love that guy.
Oh yeah, that would be so good.
Okay,
he is I mean, one of the best. Oh, not only him, but also Lance Reddick, who plays Zavala in Destiny.
Oh my god, that guy's awesome.
They're both so good. I would bring them in. Bring them in.
You know, I actually kind of off topic here, but I rewatched They Live the other day with Keith David, and dude, what an awesome movie. I like just an awesome movie. I forgot how good that movie was.
And also, speaking of The Expanse, the actress who plays Christian Avasarala, Shohreh Aghdashloo, I think is, if I didn't butcher her name, she's shown up in a lot of stuff lately. She also was in Destiny. She was in Expanse.
She was in Arcane. I started watching Arcane last night.
She could probably fit in anywhere, but she has that just that voice. So good.
Yeah, what a voice.
Throw her in Metroid for sure.
Yeah, I heard it in Arcane. I was like, oh my god, it's Sarala, and I was just like, this is awesome.
And then Willem Dafoe, bring him in. Let's do it. He's good at everything. He's my man.
Willem Dafoe is Silex. Let's go.
No, I don't want Ridley speaking in the games. It'd be so dumb. But like,
imagine if he started talking like Willem Dafoe though, in his green voice.
If someone's gonna be Ridley, it better be him. But I don't need Ridley to speak. Then again, if they did it like a Gravemind kind of thing, I'd be kind of down. But him as Silex, I've never thought about that. That would actually kind of go hard. I'd be down.
Dude, right?
That would kind of go hard.
Okay, our boy Griffin, the accursed hunter, has a couple questions here. I think we're gonna do 3 more questions, and then we'll save the rest of the questions for a show down the road here, because we're gonna go long. But Griff has some questions. Considering how many missiles it took to end the Ravenbeak boss battle, how many energy tanks do you think he has? It has to be somewhere in the low hundreds. I don't know. Because that depends on how much damage we think that a missile does in conjunction with an energy tank. So we've never had... Maybe we did have that opportunity actually in Metroid Prime 2 multiplayer to see, but I don't know.
How do we know he even has energy
you guys
tanks?
Know?
Like, how do we even know he has, like, energy tanks at all? Like, maybe that may not even be a thing for him. Maybe he just has one energy pool or something.
Well, let's just say that energy tanks equates to a big HP bar, maybe.
Yeah.
And then we can define. I don't know. We would need some game theory stuff to figure this out.
I'm going to go on a whim and say that he does have energy tanks, just because both of these characters have Chozo power suit technology embedded into them, which run on energy tanks. And so I actually don't think it's too far-fetched to say that he probably has his own stash of energy tanks keeping his suit powered up.
Well, also when you do fight Ravenbeak, he has somewhat of a protective shielding around him at most of the time in terms of that like energy that hovers around him. So like when you do fire some missiles off, let's say that you fire 5 storm missiles, and not all of them necessarily hit the way that you want either. So while you do shoot a lot of missiles at him, it's not like they're all connecting either. But yeah, we'd have to do some extrapolation and calculations to figure out the answer to this question. Probably a job too big for us. Mm-hmm. So let's go to Griff's second question here. Since Metroid Dread ended a story arc while also bringing focus on the 2 Chozo tribes with a direct connection to Samus, will the Chozo have more of a focus from now on, or will it go the opposite route and barely show up outside of the Chozo statue Samus finds? I'd like to think if it's the former, or that it's the former, since the Chozo has such a deep connection to Samus and the Metroid series as a whole. I don't know. I mean, it really depends. Like, we got Metroid Fusion, and that had essentially no Chozo in it at all, but it's not like that was a bad thing. I don't think that the Chozo need to be present in, like, every single game. But I think now... I mean, with Metroid Dread, like, you kind of pulled them to the forefront a little bit, and I don't know if maybe we go back. Like, I think that as far as the Thoha and the Makin, I think those tribes are probably done. I think that there are probably other tribes of Chozo out there, the ones that are on Talon 4, or the ones that landed on Aether or whatever. I think that there are still other pockets of Chozo in the galaxy that we can, explore and see in future Metroid games. But I think that the particular Makin and Thoha races are probably... Makin especially, I think that they're probably done and that they probably should stay done.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, well, I mean, obviously now the Chozo are a more active part of the story, they've kind of lost that mystique they had, which is natural and that's fine. I don't know. I was more interested in the Chozo when I felt they were kind of more like many different, multiple, disconnected tribes, and weren't so like good or bad. Like and may not necessarily be the case, but I feel like that's how they're presented with like Samus Returns and now Dread, where it's like, no, it's not actually all these different tribes that are all spread out and all have their different things going on. It's like they're the good Chozo and they're the bad Chozo and they're at odds, and it's like that just doesn't. I don't care anymore. So like, yeah, I guess the Chozo will probably have more of a focus. I would have to imagine, just because they're not like entirely gone as far as we know, but maybe they are. I don't know. I think there are just so many other things in the lore that you could maybe bring back or focus on. There are other species that we barely know anything about that I would be interested in seeing, but I kind of miss when they had that mystique in like, Metroid Prime and all of that. I wasn't really sure like what they would actually be like, and I feel like now that we've kind of seen more of what the Chozo, I guess, actually are in Samus Returns and now Dread, I've lost kind of interest because they just feel so boilerplate and kind of two-dimensional to me now. I wish there was some more depth to their presentation, and how they're presented now just doesn't really do much for me. So I don't know. I'm kind of indifferent on this. I wouldn't be surprised if the Chozo keep showing up in a more like I doubt we go back to how it was, where like they're kind of just artifacts laying around and not really actually present in the story. But at the same time, I kind of wish they were presented a little differently. It's again kind of similar with like Halo, where like the Forerunners and the Reclaimer trilogy had this mystique and had this a lot of background influence, and then you kind of bring them to the forefront, and it's not as interesting anymore, I don't think. So I don't know. I personally would be more interested in focusing on other aspects of the universe we don't know too much about, but considering how far we've gotten now, it's, I think, impossible to go back to how the Chozo were originally presented in the earlier games.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with all that. I think it's also context dependent. Like I don't think every single game needs to have like the Chozo as like a major focal point of the story, but I also feel like their influence will be felt even if they're not that much at present. I feel like their influence will be felt a lot more going on from here on out. At least in the 2D games, maybe not necessarily as much in the Prime games, but yeah. Otherwise, yeah, pretty much agree with everything you said there.
Yeah, I think that it's not possible or not probable even, but like I think that it's definitely not within the realm of possibility that we do go back to seeing them as kind of like a mysterious kind of civilization that's disappeared, because I don't know, I didn't get that impression from Dread that there was only the two tribes, and I do think that there's more Chozo out there to kind of explore and to learn about. So
I hope so. I hope so. I think if they can go that route and go back to that, I'd be interested. But I definitely kind of got that vibe from Dread, where it's like, well, these are the only two tribes that really matter, and they're good and they're bad, and there's no gray area, to the point where like the bad guys look evil and the good guy Chozo look not evil. I'm like, oh, this isn't the world building I was hoping for, but it is what it is.
Okay, last question here, and then we'll wrap it up for the day. And then we'll get to everyone else's questions in an episode, maybe in a week or two. But Minneapolis King has another one. With Nintendo claiming Dread ended the story arc, is Samus's Metroid DNA permanently suppressed at the end of Dread? If not, do you think Dread was the actual end, or will Metroid 6 be the third installment of a trilogy starting with Fusion, the DNA arc, and Dread ending the arc, focusing on SR388 themes?
No way it's permanently suppressed. Absolutely not.
Who even knows? The game just ends. Like, it just ends at the end. Like, it doesn't explain anything, so who even knows?
I think that this has to be a theme going into Metroid 6. It has to be, like, right? Like, that's... And I feel like not only should it be a theme going into Metroid 6, but as we were talking about earlier, it's also a way that you can actively bring back that Galactic Federation story if you want, by... Now they have the proof. Now they have the evidence that Samus is a threat, needs to be taken out because she's a Metroid. So I feel like it has to. But at the same time, I think that Metroid 6 is going to create like a whole new set of circumstances, a whole new setting, in much the same way that Metroid Fusion did when it created the X and it created the BSL and etc. I think that Metroid 6 is going to be that, where like we are presented with new.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be new. But I do think that the Metroid DNA should play a factor into that, unless what they present is like a complete explanation for why the game is not going into the Metroid
It'll
DNA.
be in the Metroid 6 report on the website where they talk about how her DNA is dealt with off screen, and we don't have to worry about it in Metroid 6. So it's already been taken care of. No big deal. That's how I anticipate it going.
I'd be fine with that.
Oh, you'd be fine with that? You'd be fine with that, bro? You would be fine with an important part of the story being taken care of outside of the games? You'd be okay with that?
The way that that you're framing that, if it's that option or just not addressing it at all, yeah, I'll take the Metroid 6 report.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I'm being a little bit facetious. Like, it should be included in the game. If there's a compelling reason in the story and setup for Metroid 6 that explains away the Metroid DNA, then I guess I can accept that. But man, I feel what an opportunity for your next Metroid game to have that as kind of like your core story mechanic, your core gameplay mechanic. I mean, I feel like it just writes itself, right? Like,
yeah, could be.
We'll see, I guess. What do you think?
I don't know. I feel like I pretty much gave my thoughts on it. Like, yeah, I feel like it's just ripe for what you guys said. New gameplay mechanics, new story opportunities. The ending doesn't definitively say one way or another whether or not she still has the powers, but I'm more inclined to believe that she still does, just because the X was so basically the way I interpret it is because the X took over Quiet Robe, who has the Thoha genes, which gave Samus more ability to control the Metroid inside of her. I don't think it actually annihilated it altogether. So I don't know. I feel like it's just right there.
When you talk about what you just said, it just sounds like nonsense to me.
It is nonsense.
I don't care about any of this. Does she have the genes in her or not? And does the Chozo being taken over by the X? I'm like, oh my god, I don't.
I feel like what you said, Doom, made sense to me. I feel like that was I feel like that was a fair description of what could have happened at the end of the game, but. Yeah, I think it's absolutely something that needs to be addressed in the next game. I don't think that it's going to be a trilogy, though, for sure. The next game is going to be new.
Yeah,
it's going to be new stuff. It's going to be new setting.
Yep, I agree with that. I think the next game won't there might be some connective tissue between Dread and Fusion and this new game, and likely it will come in the form of the Metroid DNA maybe playing a factor. But overall, I'm anticipating an entirely new story, setting, and all that.
Yeah, I think that we should anticipate Metroid 6 looking a lot like Metroid Fusion did back in the day, which is not a bad thing at all. So yeah, there we go. We got to get out of here. We got to let Dak go back to his casting. So we're gonna cut it off here for this week, but we'll definitely follow up and do the rest of these questions very, very soon. I don't know, maybe even next week. I don't know what we got going on next week, but we'll get to the rest of them. Thank you so much, everybody that threw in a question and helped us with the show this week. It was awesome. A lot of great questions, a lot of fun questions. So you love to see it. We are going to get out of here, but of course we want you to check us out over on Twitter. We are at Omega Metroid Pod. I am at Spateri316. Dak is at DakCity_. Doom is at Doom_Cross. And of course, the podcast is over on Spotify, iTunes, Podbean, you name it, it's there. We are wherever you get your pods, so go and like and subscribe. Recommend us to that Metroid fan in your life. And we will see you guys next week. Until then, everybody, take care.